Chapter 1. So that's how it is now, is it? Perfection only comes but with a price tag? Her voice came so curtly, so coldly. Whatever happened to the spirit of peace and goodwill, to being with the ones you love, and believing in an old fat guy with a red suit? He couldn't help himself. The man had to look. Had to look at this girl. This kid, who had such an energy about her. One he wouldn't have expected from a kid at Christmas. She continued, the fact of the matter is, there just isn't any faith anymore. No one believes because they don't need to. Not when you can buy perfection. Her gaze remained latched onto the festive display of buyable goods. She either didn't know of her audience or didn't care, she just spoke regardless. Her words were so cynical, her attitude bitter. She was cold, in every possible sense of the word. Cold. Though it didn't end there, her skin was pale like snow, her eyes were the most chilling shade of blue imaginable, and her hair was icy brown in tone. There was nothing warm about her, not even the woolly hat she wore seemed to be working. To all who might meet her, they would most likely believe her to have a heart completely frozen within that cold outer shell. You talk strange for a kid. The man's silence broke. She spoke in a way which begged his response. Anyway, I thought you youngsters loved Christmas. Please. Youngsters don't even know the meaning of Christmas anymore. But then why would they? When they're raised to expect presents under the tree every year. Only if they're good, he defended instinctually. She turned to acknowledge his presence for the first time in their meeting. Her eyes piercing under a mocking brow. All parents think their kids are good. The weight of the statement was clearly too much for him to handle, forcing his retreat from her judging pale stare. He bit his lip, as his eyeline pointed straight down at the bags he carried. Bags evidently filled with last-minute Christmas presents. For a moment nothing was said. Only silence. An empty silence too awkward for him to maintain. I take it you're a non-believer then? She smiled to herself in an ironic kind of way. I believe more than most. But like I said, there just isn't any faith anymore. Her gaze returned to the shop window, whilst his became fixed on her. Faith in what exactly? There was true intrigue trapped in his voice. His attention was obvious. He was genuinely interested in the conversation, in hearing what she had to say. Despite being a child, she was in complete control of the situation. She looked back at him. His eyes and attention were locked on her every word. Christmas was never about the presents, it was about giving people something to smile about, something magical. As she proceeded, her voice changed. It almost sounded like there was a bit of hope hiding behind that icy exterior, like there was still warmth in her heart. Now, this obviously didn't mean much to those with money, they never noticed. But to those who did, those who deserved to get something to smile about, they are who Christmas is for. There was a pause. And in it that warmth froze over, as she severed their connection to return to the window, her attitude utterly cold once again. But now it's just a popularity contest. A challenge to see whose parents have the biggest pockets to buy them the most happiness. She looked vexed by her own remark, irritated by the very idea it posed. She wasn't looking at the widow to see anything, she was fixed on it to hide from him, the fact that those icy blues were in fact steaming with red. There was something about this kid, something he had never seen before, something he couldn't truly understand. Who are you? And for the last time that night she turned to look at him, his hands full of shopping and his eyes bursting with wonder. It's not just kids who need to believe in magic anymore. With that statement she moved away from the shop window and down the quiet street, leaving him alone on the path. His instincts drew his gaze down to consider his bags. His mind racing with thoughts he hadn't thought of before. It was merely seconds later when he returned his sights to the girl, but the girl had gone. In the blink of an eye she had completely disappeared into the clear night ahead.